Every 3.5+ years in Nigeria, since the end of the military rule, we go to the polls to elect a people who have chosen to serve their constituents at different levels, from the local government to the state to the federal. When the elections are done, the people who had voted for those in public office begin to wonder, where are the people we voted into office? The definition of democracy is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Indeed, when one gets into office, he is meant to do the bidding of the people, provide them basic amenities, and ensure that they get the dividends of democracy. Is that the situation in Nigeria? Newsnight sat down for a conversation with the former governor of Katsina State, Mr. Ibrahim Shama, who talks to us about his political journey and tutelage under former President Yar'Adua and what he did as governor and what he's doing now. Alhaji Ibrahim Shama, thank you for speaking with us today.
Thank you very much.
You know, you've been away from the political space for quite a while after you left office. What have you been doing?
Going back to my second address.
Okay.
Legal practice.
Ah, okay. So you've been seeing all the fireworks, the back and forth in the legal profession.
Of course.
And
I have, because I moved from international corporate aviation law practice into the political terrain directly. So you can imagine, after I finished my service in Katsina as governor, I was deeply interested to see what happened in the legal space after I left it for almost 24 years.
24 years?
Yeah, because I was there as Attorney General Commissioner for Justice.
Yes.
For late President Yar'Adua. Then I went back to be, I became Deputy National Chairman of the PDP for 7 years. Then I became governor for 8 years. And then I've been in retirement now from active politics, or at least from vibrant politics, you know, fairly on and off for the past 8 to 9 years.
But what is it that gave you that impetus to leave your legal profession? And you were doing well. What made you go into politics?
Yeah, you know, I had this idea initially that politics is that dirty game. That people, you know, who really have something to do can do it instead of running into politics. But then the late President Yar'Adua invited me personally to join his cabinet as Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice in 2007. Reluctantly, I agreed. And the reason for my agreeing to serve him was because of the caliber and the quality of the man, Umar Musa Yar'Adua. I felt he had a lot to offer, and he meant well for Katsina and his people. So I joined him as a Commissioner for Justice, Attorney General Commissioner for Justice, for 4 years. And thereafter, I left. And I remember in those days when I was serving as Attorney General Commissioner for Justice, having come from the international legal terrain, holding meetings and getting into cases across the globe with my partners, Stearns and Walker of San Francisco, US, and so many other partners in other parts of the globe, the law offices of State Mitchell & Co., who I represented the laws of London. And I had stint with some cases in Cameroon. I also had opportunity to do some cases in Saudi Arabia. So in short, I was involved in quite a number of cases, from Africa to the Middle East to Europe to the Americas. And after having gone through that, you know, coming now to serve as Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice seemed a little bit complicated for me because it's wrapped into politics.
Yeah.
So I remember, like I said, in those days, late President Yar'Adua, after a council meeting, will ask non-political heads to leave the office or the council chamber for the political heads. And immediately I remember packing my files and documents. And he asked me, Ibrahim, where are you going? I said, sir, I thought I heard you say political heads. And he asked me, and what are you? I said, sir, at best, I'm a roadside politician.
Yeah.
He said, sit down, my friend. You have to sit and learn. Politics needs good men, and there's no how you can just leave it. So anyway, I'm grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving me that opportunity, and for late President Umar Yar'Adua for also giving me the opportunity to serve in my state and opened my eyes to the need for every good person, well-intentioned Nigerians, to join politics, to partake in politics. Otherwise, those good Nigerians will have no right to complain if they allow lesser quality people take over the realm of affairs at the political level, at all levels, in fact, local government, state, and national.
You know, for one who was born of the President Yar'Adua's political pedigree, so to speak, if I may use that, there are those who would expect that you shouldn't have gone quiet. Having left office, having received the kind of mentorship you received, you shouldn't have gone quiet. Why did you?
Am I really quiet?
No, but, well,
You see, you just finished saying that the pedigree of Umaru Musa Yar'Adua. Now reflect back to who is Umaru Musa Yar'Adua. Was he the kind of governor or the kind of politician or the kind of president who is every day on pages of newspaper? I was taught politics by that man. And I know you only speak where you must speak. Otherwise, if you speak on everyday basis, you lose your value even as a politician. So that's the reason why I don't think, if it is necessary to talk, I talk. Once in a while, I appear on platforms and speak on national issues. And I remember even after the last election, I issued a press statement calling on all stakeholders to come together and put hands on deck. Let's join hands on deck to support the growth and development of Nigeria and put Nigeria out of the crisis for itself.
You know, that politics as it is now Nigeria as we speak, indeed, the man Yar'Adua never spoke much except it was absolutely necessary.
Exactly.
I was privileged to have covered the presidential election that brought him in Katsina. And that was my first time in Katsina. I had a bit of an encounter with him when he came out to buy something by the roadside. How much of him were you as a governor in Katsina?
Well, having been my teacher in politics, and he was a classroom teacher, although he didn't teach me chemistry, I was an art student.
Yeah.
But I was in College of Art, Science and Technology at the same time. He was lecturing there as a chemistry teacher. And I learned a lot from him. And I respect his brand of politics, the politics of service. So when I became governor, I tried to emulate him as best as I can. Of course, he had a very large shoes to fill, but I tried my best to make sure that, the approach he adopted or the training he gave me as a politician, I kept faith with that. If you notice, throughout the time we were in office, I was not too frequently even on the media. I only talk when it's necessary. And that's copying from a master politician, late President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua. Because it's always good to speak when it matters most and when it's really helpful and useful for the people you lead. Late President Yar'Adua used to say, and I remember in one of the interviews, I think it was on BBC House of Service, he said, a barrel of oil that is filled with oil, if you try to heat it, the sun will be damp. But empty barrels, like they say, make the loudest noises. That has been his stand in politics. And that has been what I try to emulate as a governor. He was a good politician, a good teacher, and he was a good governor and good president. So copying from such a man, such attributes, such great attributes, was very important for me as a politician, because service was the focus. It was later President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua who told me that, Ibrahim, I do not lay foundation for projects. I only commission them. Because you lay foundation for a project, something could happen, political envy could enter, people can frustrate the project. And this is meant to serve the people. So I copied that. Yar'Adua, I know, never used siren as a governor. He drives through the towns of Katsina and all over the states, never uses siren. The only time you find Yar'Adua probably using siren is when he's choked up in traffic in Abuja and he's heading for a meeting in the villa. And I believe I try to do the same. So there's so much that I try to emulate from him. Even the focus of leadership is service to the people.
But you see, this matter of service to the people, some will say is subjective. I mean, what you call service to the people might not be what the people consider service to them.
Very good.
How much of conversations do you think the politicians today, or even in your time, had with the people to find out what the people need?
Yes. Very good question. And I'll tell you how I approached that aspect when I became governor of Katsina State. I knew the importance of knowing or getting to know exactly what your people want, the electorates. So before I started working in Katsina, I set up what everybody in Katsina now can remember clearly. I call the CDC, the Community Development Committees. Deliberately, I designed them. When I was designing them, I think very few people realized where I was heading. I asked the traditional title holder or ruler in the particular community, members of the clergy, representation from the women and the youth of the business community, a retired civil servant from federal or state level, and compose them into committees in each local government level. And I mandated them to go across their respective local governments and ask the rural communities, what exactly do you want your government to do for you? And that is where demands for water came, supply. Demand for electrification came. Demand for roads, for agricultural inputs and requests. Demand for commerce and industry. Demand for educational and health facilities. It all came through. And when we collated this data from the rural community directly, I assembled a team of young professionals, computer literate guys, who sat down and filtered out the demand sector by sector. All the demands for water was packaged in one. In every polling unit, in every ward, in every local government in Katsina State. All the demand for school infrastructure or hospital and the rest were all packaged and put as one. So when we had the items listed in this fashion, I directed my ministries from the budget of 2008, which I made because I made 2007 budget on ground and I completed implementation. I directed the ministries to make their budgets around those demands until the day I left. And I directed the local governments too and advised them strongly that they should equally adopt the request from their people. That was why you realize that in Katsina, when we are going to put a borehole, we don't just go and put a borehole across the board. Say we want to put 2,000 boreholes. I don't just go and start putting boreholes where I feel I want to put it, or where political appointees around me want to put it. I put a borehole based on requests made by people from the local communities. So in essence, the person who needs a borehole gets a borehole. The one who needs a classroom gets a classroom. The one who needs a health facility gets a health facility. So in that way, we're able to move and do every aspect of that request in the rural communities at the local government level and at state level. And that is why now I am answering your question that we were working on the basis of the people's request.
But if you were doing so much, again, based on what the people wanted, how is it then that the same people tagged you a stingy governor?
Yeah, well, who are those who tagged me a stingy governor? Certainly not the rural community, not those who have had free education from our government for their children, not those who had their children's WAEC, NECO, and NEPTEP and SE paid for them, not those who are going to hospital to get Medicare for free, to get for their pregnant women, nursing mothers, malaria patients, dialysis, kidney, people who have kidney problem, having dialysis for free. You don't have, those guys will not call us stingy. And the rural community and even the communities in the state cannot call us stingy. When I had to build about 3,000 houses, each 3-bedroom house was costing us to build, minus the land cost, at 6.8 million naira. And we cut it by half and sold it to civil servants at 3.4 million and asked them to pay 10% down and pay the balance in 5 years. Those guys would not call me stingy governor. At the same time, we built houses here in Abuja. They're there for everyone to see. They call it Katsina Estate today. We built houses there. We didn't borrow money from anywhere. We didn't take loan for the 80,000 office from state and national or international sources. Everything we had, we used from our sources. So how can somebody who benefited from this kind of things call us stingy? So, but those who will call us stingy, I understand that. The political class, some of us feel that unless you share money, we are stingy. And sharing money in public office, frankly speaking, if you choose to share money, then you cannot work. Because the system is very simple to understand and appreciate. If you choose to work, you can't share money. If you choose to share money, you cannot work. I'm sure Nigerians can look at this and answer it for themselves.
But then what's with this matter with the EFCC? Of course, I have to bring this, since we're talking money. The EFCC came after you at one time about some monies that were not accounted for, about 6 billion or thereabout.
All kinds of stories. It comes with the game of politics. Some people may choose to go and malign you, some will try to attack you, some will try to, whichever way they can. I remember it was PDP in office for 16 solid years in Katsina. And suddenly we lost power to the APC. And the APC came into office and thought it's necessary to set up 38 committees to investigate our administration. Virtually every department in Katsina had a committee investigating it. And I don't want to go into details because this thing is history. And not only me, a lot of other governors have faced the same challenges. And I know a lot of other governors may face the same challenges. I don't know. But the point of the matter is that in politics, you cannot be above allegations and accusations. It's only God Almighty that can protect you against that. But the fact remains, whether what you are accused of, you have done it or not, is the issue. If you know your hand is clean and your God is a witness, so I'm worried.
So how then can we achieve that, a situation where you can come in, serve the people, and leave without anybody coming after you?
It is very difficult. Because if I remember correctly, historically, if you look at the history of politics in Nigeria since independence, almost everyone that I can think of, or I can remember, who tried his best for this country, had allegations made against him, was either even sentenced to prison, or eventually lost his life somewhere. All those bright guys in Nigeria that led Nigeria since independence, the list is long. I don't even want to go back to history. But cast your mind back to how many people have faced allegations. All the most important and credible people in Nigeria. Obafemi Alo faced allegations in the southwest. All kinds of allegations. Wicked, malicious allegations. Late Sir Ahmad Bello Sokoto faced allegations here in the northern Nigeria. And eventually lost his life. The late Nnamdi Azikiwe, great Zig of Africa, equally faced all kinds of challenges and allegations. So I think it's an attitude in politics. Even in the advanced democracies in the world, you discover that their leaders are not above getting allegations against them. Right now, President Donald Trump is facing all multiple kinds of allegations against him in different courts in America. So that, I think, probably is the kind of brand of politics we find ourselves in. And even those who are in office now and those who have just left, you'll find that sooner or later, all manner of allegations will be made against them. The fact remains whether those allegations are true or false or merely political.
Let's move away and come down to our polity as it is right now. And the way it is right now is the people concerned about how the politicians are living or seeming to live. The people have there's galloping inflation, so to speak, ever increasing inflation, and the people are finding it difficult to survive. But the politicians are appearing to have it all easy. How does that tie into serving the people, as you've been talking about, meeting the people at the point of their needs and how they're doing?
You see, a lot of the times when you talk about service to the people, the question of inflation, the issue of how the politicians are living and the rural community are living, the truth is, we must rise to the occasion and protect and defend democracy and good governance. If we don't do that, both the leaders and the followers will continue to wallow in this problem. You see, the tendency is that when someone or some person in any political environment in Nigeria decide to do things wrongly against the law, against the constitution, against financial regulations, people seem to help him. People seem to help that person. But if you choose to do what is right, and I often prefer to choose doing what is right than what is popular, then you are going to face barrage of all kinds of allegations and challenges. So the political class generally, especially the middle level, prefer popular programs. And popular programs essentially entail putting money in the pockets of private individuals. So it's about pocket and stomach politics.
So with that
and
kind of a
those
situation,
few groups were
yes.
very few in number, all of us politicians. Our class is very small compared to the general population of Nigeria.
Indeed.
So you find that those class of few, who prefer to drive the process in that manner. So unless we collectively, elites and the political class, agree that we must shift our focus from what it is today to what it should be so that Nigerians can have a better life. Because right now the cost of living is very astronomical. Government has to find a way to address the cost of living of Nigerians. In doing so, we must focus on aspects of education, illiteracy, and ignorance. Education in particular open multiple doors of opportunities to youth in Nigeria. But we have to pay attention to that. Education with opportunities. And we cannot create opportunities if we just corner everything for ourselves and our families as a political class. We have to think of the rural poor. We have to think of the rural community. We have to work to reposition Nigeria. And it can be done. Believe me, if Nigerian leadership today and Nigerian leaders at all levels can come together and sincerely address the concern of all Nigerians, most of the problems.
I was going to ask you, and again, I've tried a couple of times to interrupt you to put this in there so they could put it all together, because how would you even begin to say everybody should protect democracy? As it is now, the electorate who employed the politicians are screaming hunger, are screaming difficulty, and then you tell them you need to protect. Even some of the elite are screaming difficulty. The elite who are supposed to be having it okay are screaming.
Yes.
So it's biting across board, except it looks like except for the political class.
Okay, I'll tell you my personal opinion. My personal opinion is that when you have a situation where the voter in Nigeria collects stipend to vote for a candidate in an election, when you have a situation where the policeman who is supposed to secure or guard the polling unit will collect stipend for election, why you have a situation where the official in INEC, Independent Electoral Commission, will be compromised or allow himself to be compromised by collecting money from politicians. When you have a situation where religious leaders, traditional institutions, will be given money to vote election. So tell me, how can you expect quality in leadership? Those people you collected their money to go and vote, those people you collected their money to protect, that's a security agency. Those people, not just police, I'm just saying security agencies, those people who you collect money from, is traditional ruler or is religious leader. Tell me, why would you have the capacity to come and speak with them about when they're going wrong? This is where our politics have gone wrong. You understand? Based on that, it is very difficult often to just accuse the political class alone as responsible for the rot in society. Because like it is said, a people always get the kind of government they deserve. That is why I say it's a collective.
Yeah.
Both the political class, the elites, even the followers, the governed. Because government exists essentially for the happiness of the governed. So unless we decide collectively to work together, it may not be everybody. Because not all politicians or all class of Nigerians will agree to what I'm saying in this respect. But I personally believe, in all honesty, that there must be some paradigm shift.
In the build-up to the elections of 2023, I think, let me be sure of that. Yes, 2023 general elections. You took a political decision that led to your suspension. And later, after your protest, it was reversed. What was that decision? And why did you take that kind of decision?
Yeah, politics is about decision-making process. And you can decide which way you want to go. But for me, it is extremely important at all times that there should be decorum in politics. There should be politics of principles. There should be politics of thinking to serve Nigeria, grow and develop democracy and the rule of law. So basically, I took that decision because I felt the way things were going, the party I was involved with at that point in time was not following the rules, was not working with internal democracy, was having challenges or creating challenges all over the country. I'll give you an example. PDP started with 21 governors in 1999. By 2003, it has 27 governors, or it had 27 governors. By 2007, it had 31 governors. Yet, by 2011, PDP came down to, I believe, 23 governors or so. And it went to 19 governors in 2015. No, I think I think 2015 it was about 13 governors. Then
the numbers began to drop from 2014.
It went to 16 governors, and 2023 it came back to 13 governors. So something was fundamentally wrong. A party that was accepted to have 31 governors in Nigeria in 2007 suddenly plummeted to 16 governors in 2019 and to 13 governors in 2000. We should have looked at that as a party. And then there are multiple crises. Executives from across the country were being removed at whims. Elected executives of the party were being removed at whims. And crisis was being created. 5 governors have bolted out. Some critical members of the party were moving out, and I was not seeing any tangible efforts to correct those things. Even in my state of Katsina, things were not going well at that point in time. And because I passionately believe in democracy and rule of law, I virtually pulled back. Then I took a second look, a hard look at Nigeria, a hard look at the demand for every one of us who is involved at that level to participate and partake in addressing the deep problems Nigeria has found itself in. And that is why I choose to pull back, and I choose to pick and support the persons I feel can help Nigeria move forward. And eventually, if you notice, I think Ekiti too suffered from this suspension of duly elected executives. It was the first, and so many other states too suffered from that. Just the executive at a national committee level will wake up and say they're suspending chapter, so chapter this, chapter that, chapter this. That caused friction.
You know, I would really love to dwell on this matter of the PDP, because the internal situation in the PDP is what's causing the situation in Plateau, where the governor was said to have been removed by the tribunal, and the appeal court, where they're all waiting for the Supreme Court to speak up on this.
It happened in Cross Rivers. It happened in Plateau. It happened in Ekiti. It happened in Katsina. It happened in Kano. Internal crisis.
But is it the internal crisis that's causing what's going on in Rivers State right now? Is it a party thing?
Well, I don't have much details of what's going on except what I see in the media. But there are all manner of insinuations. Whatever it is, these are things that the people in Rivers State, the stakeholders of PDP in Rivers State. I have resigned from the PDP, by the way. Yes, I sent a letter of resignation. Because what they did was, after the election of 2023, I just was informed, or I saw via media, that I have been suspended, along with all the duly elected executives of the party from ward to local government to state. Nobody referred to us. Nobody told us our crime. Nobody even wrote to us. Nobody asked us to answer any questions. I just saw suspension on pages of paper. And if you remember, I'm sure the rest of the media also remember, I wrote a letter. I demanded that the suspension, number one, especially of the duly elected executives, be withdrawn. So also my suspension. And I gave 48 hours. And I told the party that if this is not done within 48 hours, they should consider this as my letter of resignation from PDP. It was not done. They merely came around 72 hours and said they have withdrawn my suspension, that of Anyim Pius Anyim, and that of, I think, Ayo Fayoshi from the governor of Ekiti State, and a few others. And my target was not the issue of my suspension. It is why would you suspend a duly elected executive under the law that have a term certain to serve? And you think nothing of it.
But this speaks a lot about the kind of politics we play here in Nigeria. And yet you still say everyone needs to rise up to defend democracy.
Absolutely.
But by our laws, you can't do anything without the parties. There's no independent candidature. So it is what the parties say or the party structures that you have to deal with. So if the parties themselves are not organized or they are not protecting democracy, can the people do that?
The people are the main protectors of democracy. You know why? Because they can choose to vote for anyone they want, they think who can help them. There are multitude of political parties in Nigeria. And I can tell you that if this one is not functioning or is not prepared to obey the laws and operate according to the rules and respect democracy and rule of law, there are other parties who can do so. Of course, we don't have room for independent candidature, but we do have choice. Nigerians have choice to decide which way they want to drive this country.
Let's pause here and examine choice. You were chosen governor of Katsina State. What challenges did you have to deal with? Because right now in the country, we are dealing with security issues. Besides, yes, we've been talking about the politicians and their ways, but there are the security challenges. In your time, what were the challenges you had to deal with? Because the security thing wasn't this escalated at that time.
Yeah, you know, security is dynamic. The issue of security across the globe is very dynamic. Not just in Nigeria, but everywhere in the world. Things keep changing. Technology keeps changing. People's attitude keep changing. And all manner of problems rear their head. So when I was in office, what were the major challenges I had in terms of security? I met on ground some young chaps called Kaurai. Ask the Katsina people, they will tell you about it. Those chaps, I came back from office just about nearly 1 month after I got elected. I switched on my television, the NTA local station. And what did I see? A group of young boys blocking a whole neighborhood inside Katsina capital at 7 p.m. and macheting people and breaking glasses of cars. And I said, no, this cannot happen at my watch. I immediately set up a special task force committee comprising of the Army, the SSS, the Civil Defense, and the Mobile Police. I had a small team that was reporting directly to me. And I engaged them, I equipped them, I empowered them, including NDLA, because we discovered those chaps would take drugs before they go and do their dastardly acts. So the NDLA was supported to switch on and stop drug abuse, drug use, and drug sales and distribution in Katsina. And then we went to work. And believe me, ask anybody you wish from Katsina. He will tell you. Those chaps, after a while of our operations, decided to leave their environments and move out some other place. In fact, it was said in Katsina, then popularly known, that rather than to call them Kauraye, they prefer you to call them thieves. Because they know if they are Kauraye, they will be dealt with according to the law. So that was one of the challenges I faced, but we dealt with it and we resolved it. And it's not as if Katsina didn't have issues of, armed robbery, banditry, even Boko Haram to some extent attempted to come into Katsina. But by the special grace of God and by the efforts we put in place deliberately, we designed a program of action for security. And God, in His infinite mercy, assisted us. We didn't have much security issues in that aspect at that point in time. Now, today, the issue of security has changed so dramatically. Before now, there was the issue of Boko Haram, essentially, which is linked up with ISIS and all other transnational criminal and gang organizations. Now, today, you have banditry in Nigeria. You have kidnappings in Nigeria. In addition to probably the Boko Haram menace. So these are a new pattern of activities of insecurity from the criminals. That means that Nigeria has to keep changing constantly and continuously in terms of security architecture and security management. You cannot have a normal warfare approach to a security situation that is different from warfare.
So you do stand with the Kaduna State Governor when he said the fact that the governors do not have a role in the security infrastructure is not helping.
You see, I find that a bit strange because the governor is the chief security officer of the state, just like the local government council chairman is the chief security officer of the local government, and just like the president of Nigeria is the chief security officer of the whole country. So if a governor says he has no role to play, or he has little role to play,
but tell me,
maybe he's making reference to the issue he doesn't control the police and the army and the rest of it.
I was going to go there. So how is it that you are able to get them together? Because if the commander-in-chief gives a directive from the federal, those men that you had as a team working with you will pull out. So maybe that's where
they have to be encouraged. They have to be properly provided for in terms of equipment, in terms of allowances, in terms of training, in terms of supervision.
But that's
and they have to be encouraged to work together.
That's the same thing you're talking
about. Because interagency rivalry oftentimes create problem and friction in the security architecture.
Okay, but let's look at it from this side, where you talked about approaching the security challenge the way it's been for a long time. Meanwhile, the challenge itself is dynamic.
Of course it is.
So what can we do differently? Because I think that's where the Kaduna State Governor was going to.
Differently, if you want to do things differently, then you have to design a security architecture zone by zone.
Okay.
Every political zone must have a definite team that can come together and work with the national team. By extension, every state team has to link up with the zonal team. And the same, the local government level has to link up with the local government level. The intelligence gathering, information from the intelligence communities of our government structures must equally actively be involved and connected with the traditional institutions, with the religious leaders, with all kinds of interest groups in society. When you do that, you support the federal agencies and the role they play. But if everyone operates in isolation or operates in rivalry form, instead of focusing on rivalry to deal with the situation, then we'll continue to experience all kinds of monumental challenges as far as security is concerned.
So do you appreciate what the governors in different states are doing, setting up local intelligence gathering teams? For instance, in your state, the governor there set up a group, about 1,500, and I think they've increased, trained by the police and the DSS to work locally in terms of managing security.
Yes. You see, that tells you that, there's no one simple rule that applies to all. Every state has its own nature of insecurity. There is one that is virtually common, but there are peculiarities. For example, if you take the issue of insecurity in northwestern region of Nigeria, most of it is not far or too far disconnected with the issue of minerals resources prospecting. And equally, the aspect of poverty, illiteracy, and ignorance play a big role in that. So the respective state governors will have to adopt a strategy, but that strategy must not be in isolation with what the federal government is doing, and must be tied up to what the local communities are doing. My governor, Deko Umar Rada, PhD, set up a security watch corps in the state. And those chaps have been trained, like you rightly said, by security agencies, and they are going out to operate along with the communities. Because there is nobody who will know the aspect of security better than the rural community itself. Because those chaps who are raiding the communities, who are kidnapping, are usually from those communities. They're usually from there. So there's some kind of protectionism, so to speak, of criminals in societies, either by compulsion or by voluntary involvement of the communities. So these are aspects that we have to look at very closely. And the government at all levels must do this in order for us to address the concern. Because like I said before, security is dynamic, it keeps changing. So we must keep changing our approach and our policies and our programs on security to achieve the needed results and bring Nigeria back on track. But we must first and foremost address the question of cost of living for Nigerians.
How can that be addressed?
The cost
Especially when the government, or those in political office, are not appearing to cut down the cost of running government.
I think reality is down on leaders in government now that they have to cut cost of running government. Because the resources we have are not adequate. The debt burden on the country is huge. The requests by people from different aspects of human life and in areas of governance cannot be covered essentially, and the security are even overstretched. So it is extremely important and necessary that these things must be looked at holistically. Yes, you talk about the political class living big and living this. Yeah, the political class too need to cut down their budgets, need to cut their spending. We all need to cut our spendings. I'm not in office, but I believe that office or out of office, we need to address ourselves to the concern of ordinary Nigerians. And ordinary Nigerians too have a role to play. It's not as if only people in leadership are the ones who are going to play a key role. No. The communities, the rural communities, the leaders at all levels, traditional institutions, religious leaders, the clergy, the business community, the youth, the women group, must all talk in one talk, dealing with the issue of how to resolve security and economic well-being of Nigerians. Cost of living will keep rising because of our huge dependence on oil. And that oil, we all know, the challenges it's facing today. We have abundance of gas in Nigeria that is waiting to be tapped or that's being tapped, but probably not adequately. The reserve of oil we have, the money we can make from gas, probably is even higher than that from oil. The money we can make from solid minerals, if tapped properly.
Which is being stolen.
That's what I'm saying. So the money we can tap from all the resources. And then the tax system that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is trying to regenerate or to re-energize, I think is a way to go for Nigeria, to enhance our revenue potentials. The most developed nations in the world, if you look at them closely, are not relying on oil. They are relying on taxation through production. And unless we are producing in Nigeria, we move from consumer economy to production economy, and these need to be done. Like I said, everybody has a stake to play. The businesses cannot thrive well if there is no enabling environment provided by government. Just this morning, I saw somebody posted, information on the net that some Smith Climb and Beecham or other company are pulling out of Nigeria. And the reason being given is all kinds of people are floating all manner of reasons. But the economic reality for companies to operate in Nigeria or anywhere in the world is nobody is in business to make losses. People go into business with a view of making profit. So if businesses that exist here in Nigeria, multinational corporations, and even local ones, are not making it, tell me how this economy can move forward. The clusters of, rural business people can be brought together and encouraged to establish production units. The same thing with agriculture. The agricultural potentials of Nigeria in Africa and in the world is huge. Go around this country and see how we're blessed with fertile, cultivable land from the first day of January to the last day of December. Which means when it's chilling winter in Europe and Americas, it's summer all year round in Nigeria. You can cultivate the land, using rain-dependent agriculture, and after that, irrigation. The agricultural potential in this country is enormous, I tell you. And any country that cannot feed itself is in trouble.
But beyond the harvest of the agricultural products, what about the value addition?
The value addition is equally necessary. But the farmer has to have access to market. The farmer has to have fair prices for his products. The farmer has to have enabling environment to produce. And then the production, or rather added value or adding value to agricultural products in Nigeria is important, but it can only happen in a peaceful environment that has democracy hinged on rule of law. If we go against the laws of this country, if we don't operate this democracy the way it should be operated, there is no how you can have a peaceful and stable economy.
Maybe if we look at this matter of consequence management, where someone does wrong is punished adequately and someone does right is rewarded, maybe that will change things, or don't you think so?
You see, there are always laws for that. But whether those laws are applied properly or not is what matters most. Laws are made to be obeyed. If they are disobeyed, there should be consequences or punishment for that. But in Nigeria, you and I know, and all Nigerians know, sometimes people don't feel they're important unless they break the law.
What was the secret of the achievements you had in Katsina as governor? And then, does that mean you're out of politics completely?
Once in politics, always in politics. I'm in politics.
So which party are you in?
Well, for now, I can tell you I have left the PDP. And Katsina, I'm grateful to Almighty God, who not just gave me the opportunity to be governor in Katsina State, but guided my hand to record the kind of achievements we recorded. 8 years, we did not fail in paying salaries 22nd, 24th of every month. 8 years, we provided free education to our children in all schools. 8 years, we provided scholarship to children of indigenous families in Katsina to study in critical areas of needs of the state like medicine, pharmacy, nursing, physiotherapy, dentistry, radiology, and engineering. Those jobs we send to those schools, we pay upfront the tuition, registration, accommodation, stipend for the entire course period. 6 years, 7 years, we pay upfront. And most of these jobs have come back. They are operating in different hospitals in Nigeria. Some are heads of departments. Even the engineers have gotten employment, some in NPA, some with shipping lines, some with this. We train some chaps in shipbuilding and ship engineering. We train some in underwater welding. NNPC and all companies have employed them. We made sure every child in Katsina, indigenous or not, attended school for free. We completed the Umaru Musa Yar'Adua University. Late President Yar'Adua of blessed memory laid the foundation of that university on the day he closed his campaign in Katsina with President Obasanjo. And I vowed that 16 months after, the university would be completed. And I completed it. We equipped it. We named it after Umaru Musa Yar'Adua. So with all this, why wouldn't I be stingy?
A stingy governor.
Why wouldn't I be stingy?
Okay, but if you had a word of advice to the political class now, and those who are, and the Nigerian citizens, what would that be?
My word is Nigeria is our country, our home. Wherever Nigerians are, here or in diaspora, there is no place like home. And this is where all of us have a stake. We are all first-class citizens in this country as Nigerians. Any other place you go to live, you are a second-class citizen. So it behoves upon all of us to unite and come together and fight for the cause of this country. We cannot keep quiet. We cannot continue to keep quiet in the face of bad governance or injustice. We have to learn to speak up. We have to learn to work together. What I don't agree with is a situation where the focus of us, the political class, will be how to capture power only. And power for what? If you don't pay attention to serve the country when the country needs it most, then power for what? Right now, there's a government in place. My attitude is this: election has come and gone, petitions have come and gone, Nigeria is first. So all of us Nigerians should put Nigeria ahead of any other personal, group, or political party ambition.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
So the show has to end at one point or the other, and this is our point. Thank you for letting us be a part of you today. We'd like to hear from you about the conversation. Send us a mail, send us a tweet, send us a message on Instagram, and let's know what you think about this conversation. You can also catch up with this conversation and other conversations via our website. That's channelstv.com/podcast. Let's hear from you. Till we come again, bye-bye.